Hello everybody, welcome back to another tutorial part in our Unity tutorial series. This will be part 3. Last time we made the plane, we made a cube, and we imported the first person controller from the default Unity package. The first person controller from Unity package works really well, but it doesn't really help us learn how to create our own character movement through scripting. So what I did was I went ahead and deleted the first person controller and just added a capsule with a main camera attached to it. And we're going to go ahead and create a new C# script. And we're going to just call it player movement. And first thing we want to do is we know that we're going to need a character controller in order to move the capsule around. So we're above our class names, we're going to write require component. We're going to tell it we want what type of component we want to require, and that type is going to be a character controller. We're also going to need a couple of variables. First one's going to be public float, and we're just going to call that move speed. Second one's also going to be a public float, and we're going to call that rotate speed. What the move speed is, that's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to comment it out. So it's going to be the speed at which our player moves. The rotate speed is the speed at which our player rotates. We're also going to need a private variable, because it's going to have to be a character controller. We're just going to call it CC for now. This is our player's character controller. Now we got to start thinking about what we want actually our player to do whenever we hit certain buttons on the keyboard. So under the start method, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to define what our character controller is. So we're going to have to use our variable CC is equal to get component, and the component we want to get is the character controller. And this is where we are defining the variable that we called CC above our start method. Okay, so let's just go straight on to the update method. The first thing we want to do is we know we want to go forward whenever we hit our up arrows or our W key, which would be our vertical axis. So the first thing we want to do is define that. We're going to define that as a vector 3. And we're just going to call it forward. And that's going to equal to the input dot get axis. And the axis that we want to get is the vertical axis. And vertical is the up and down axis. We also want to multiply that by its transform dot transform direction, and the transform direction that we want to move would be the vector 3 dot forward. And in order to move that, he'll move forward, but if the speed is going to be 0, he's not going to move forward at all, even though it will register the input from the axis. So we're going to multiply that by our move speed. And we could go ahead and multiply this by time.delta time, which evens out the movement by frame rate instead of, so let's move it smooth across all frame rates. Some computers have 300 frames per second, 400 frames per second, some have 30 or 60, and this will move the same speed no matter how many frames you're getting. The second thing we want to do is we want to be able to rotate or turn our player whenever the horizontal axis is pushed. So Second thing we're going to do here is transform dot rotate, and we can use rotate or we can use rotate around. I like to use rotate, and we're going to rotate by a new vector 3, and it's going to want to know the x, y, and z for the vector 3. It's going to be 0 on the x-axis, so we want to rotate on the y-axis. So we're going to get the y-axis is going to be input dot get axis, and the axis that we want to get is the horizontal axis, and we want to multiply that by our rotate speed, and we want to multiply that by time dot delta time, and the last thing we want to do there is we want to give it a 0 for the z-axis. Alright, now the third thing we're going to want to do, now that we've defined where we're going to move when we push the buttons, we're going to actually tell the player that it needs to move. So we're going to cc.move, which is, we can do simple move, we can do move, since everything's going into the update function. You don't want to have a lot of simple move in the update function. Even the documentation of Unity even tells you not to do a lot of simple move in the update function. But for now, we're just going to move. And the direction we want to move is forward. We defined what forward was up here. It was the vector 3 on the vertical axis. Forward. And we want to multiply that by time dot delta time, which we can do it above, but we can do it right here. And we're going to use simple move for the rotate. It would just be cc dot simple move, and we're going to tell it that we want to simple move physics dot gravity. This is going to push our player towards the ground, basically, until he hits something. This pushes the player towards the ground until he collides with a collider, telling the player to move. And you'll notice that the transform rotate is on the 0 on the x-axis, 0 on the z-axis, but for the y-axis we're telling it that we want to get its input dot get axis for horizontal, and then for the moving, it's input dot get axis for the vertical. If you go into your Unity and you go to the input for your project settings, you'll notice that there are a lot of input. These axes Unity gives you already. There's horizontal and vertical both. You can rename them whatever you want. Just make sure that whatever's named here is named the same when you do your code. You'll see the 3 here for gravity and the 3 for sensitivity. The sensitivity is how fast it picks up the speed that it moves towards the target value in units per second. And the gravity is the output at which it falls toward neutral when it's at a rest. So if it's really low, like 0.5, and when you turn, it stops turning, then it will continue to move instead of just stopping on a dime, so to speak. We're just going to put that at 1. Sensitivity, it doesn't really matter. We'll put that at 2 for now. You'll notice that the negative and positive buttons for the horizontal axis is left and right, or A and D alternatively. That's the same way with the vertical. as down and up, or S and W. And we're going to do the same thing with its gravity and its sensitivity. If we attach this player movement script to the player, you'll see now there's move speed and rotate speed. We're going to set its rotate speed to 1, its move speed to 2. And if we save this off and start it up, you notice when I move forward and backwards, it moves forward and backwards. And if I turn, he turns, albeit very slowly. We can set his rotate speed up, and that's why in the script we made these public and not private. Public means you can access them from the inspector. Private means it's only going to be accessed within this class. So this set its rotate speed up way higher, like 15, because I was a little slow. We're going to play that, and you'll notice when you rotate, it'll rotate. We can set its rotate speed up to like 30. Yeah, it's a little better. You see he'll move forward, move backwards. See how if I let go of the button, he'll continue to move. And notice that when I let go of the button, it continues to move. It's sort of a sliding effect. It has to do with his gravity and the sensitivity in the input. If you want him to stop a little quicker, we can just set the gravity up so that it's in like 3. That should be fine. Second thing we're going to do, we're going to go back into our script, and in the update function, we're going to be able to want to make our player jump. So it's going to be input, or if, we're going to make an if statement here. So if input dot, we can just go with get. There's several we can choose from. Get button down, get button up. We're going to do, I think we'll just do get button down. Actually, let's just get key down, and that's going to require a key code. So it's key code dot. We can put anything here. We're just going to put space, which is pretty standard for a lot of the games out there. So this is basically saying that if the player pushes the space bar, then in these open and close brackets is what's going to happen if these conditions are met in the if statement. So what we're going to do there is we're going to do another simple move. And that's how you make a player move within world space in your games. Hope you like the third part. Remember to like and subscribe for more Unity tutorials in the future.